We are about to learn a lot more about Ilia Topuria. So what I want to do in this video is I want to talk about what I think went wrong for Ilia against Justin Gaethje at UFC Freedom 250, because I just rewatched the fight. And it's amazing what happens when you rewatch a fight. I always turn the commentary off. I slow the footage down, and I'm really taking a look at what the heck's going on in there, other than full speed, go, listen to the commentary. Shut all the noise down, slow everything down, and take a look at what actually happened in the fight. So that's what we are going to do in this very video. Now, I want to be very clear. This is not some sort of cope session, right? We're not going to be sitting around, well, Ilia Topuria, he had a bad weight cut, and we're not doing any of that stuff, because Ilia Topuria actually put out a statement that we're going to take a look at, which is just another reason as to why Ilia Topuria is one of my all-time favorites. All class. I love what Ilia posted, so we will cover that. But I'm going to break down really what I think went wrong for Ilia in this fight. Now, obviously, Gaethje fought a fantastic fight, which we'll talk a little bit about that in this video as well. But listen, Ilia Topuria's got a great group around him, right? Obviously, his brother, Alexandre Topuria, an incredible fighter as well. Ilia does things the right way, right? From the recovery to the training to he does it right. And I have no doubt in my mind that Ilia Topuria is going to bounce back in a big way. But we got to talk about some things, and we got to get real in this video, because everything is great when you're winning, but whenever you take a loss, especially that first big L of your career, a lot of eyeballs are going to be on you, and people are going to be kind of waiting with bated breath to see, how do you bounce back? Are you the same guy? Is this the type of fight that takes kind of the career out of Ilia Topuria? So we're going to discuss all of it in this video, but I want to talk about this. Because not only should a lot of fighters, in my opinion, in the fight game take notes of what Ilia did here, but also a lot of people just in life. Because this is how you handle a loss, right? People, Jake, you got a prediction wrong, man. You thought Ilia was going to make it look easy, man. Yeah, but I have no problem coming on here being like, dog, I was wrong. Gaethje made me look silly. Gaethje put on a fantastic performance. Well done, Justin Gaethje. I have no problem coming on here and giving him his props. And I feel like a lot of people should learn this skill, because this is one of the reasons that I absolutely love Ilia Topuria, man. And I think that this dude is a spectacular fighter and also a great person, because look at this here. Justin, congratulations. You said you'd leave your mark on my face, and you did. You took the sight from my right eye in the first round, and by the end of the second, from my left too. No excuses. I had one of the best camps of my life. I came in sharp, prepared, and ready. Last night was your night. That's the nature of this game. Glory and pain walk side by side. I'll heal, I'll rest, and I'll return stronger, wiser, and far more dangerous. And trust me, this story between us is far from over. We will have our rematch. I really like this from Ilia Topuria. I really like this, man, because a lot of people, they'll say, well, you know, when a fighter loses and they lose the belt, and like with Hamzat, the weight cut excuses and all this kind of stuff, people will kind of spin it and say, well, it's kind of an angle to get a rematch and kind of build up the second fight. This, to me, is how you can build up a rematch. Saying what he said at the end of this post, right? It's the nature of the game. Glory and pain walk side by side. I'll heal, I'll rest, I'll return stronger, wiser, and far more dangerous. Trust me. This story between us is far from over. And I would love to see a rematch down the line. Now, I don't think that Ilia Topuria has earned an immediate rematch. Absolutely not. But if Justin Gaethje is a guy that is still going to be around in the fight game, a rematch between the two, like, who wouldn't want to see that at some point, right? Ilia comes back, gets a big victory. Gaethje goes out there, gets a big win. I think that would be a blockbuster rematch. And not right away, right, given what we just saw. But I like this from Ilia Topuria, man. I have a ton of respect to come on here, a guy to come on social media after a loss in front of the entire world on the biggest card of all time, and you just get beat up. That's the reality. Ilia Topuria got battered and broken down by Justin Gaethje. And to go on social media and post this, man, like, I know that this is like me kind of, well, you're glazing him, man, because you made a post. You know how many fighters just can't say, I got beat? And even if Ilia Topuria had an injury or whatever the case may be, I'm not saying he did. I'm just saying, even if he did, I'm one of those guys. I don't want to hear the excuses. You got in the octagon. We're evaluating what we saw, and what we saw was Justin Gaethje put on a spectacular performance. So wanted to shout this out. This was, before I hopped on here to record, so I'm glad that, he posted this so I could cover it in this very video. But before we start talking about kind of what I saw from Ilia in the fight, all credit goes to Justin Gaethje, man. He fought a great fight, a fantastic fight. And listen, I said in my recap video right after the event where I talked about the entire card, which I'll go ahead and link below, I was saying, look, Justin Gaethje to me is the fighter of the year. To go out there, be an underdog against Paddy Pimblett, beat the brakes off of him to win the interim belt, then to fight on a historic card, which was a generational card. I mean, 7 fights, 7 finishes, and to be the main event, to go in there against an undefeated phenom in Ilia Topuria, who I've been saying is the most elite boxing in the game, dangerous, thunderous power, and a very good ground game. And to go out there and put on the performance that Gaethje did, to battle the adversity, to fight a super tactical game plan, Justin Gaethje is your fighter of the year, in my opinion. He's got my vote. At least I'm my fighter of the year, from what I've seen so far, it's got to be Justin Gaethje. And coach of the year, Trevor Whitman, he's got it in the bag. Beautiful game plan against Paddy Pimblett, a little bit reckless, brawling-like style, pressure the heck out of Pimblett, don't throw a bunch of kicks, allowing Paddy to really take him down and give him those assistants, to be able to get Gaethje to the ground where Paddy is. That's basically how he's going to win the fight, is by a submission or controlling him on the ground, even though Paddy had a little bit of success on the feet. Great game planning once again. And Trevor Whitman, I was saying I had this sneaky suspicion, man, he's a boxing-based guy, that he was really going to rise to the occasion in terms of diving a little. Not that he doesn't do a great job of preparing Gaethje, that's not what I'm saying. But there's something like, when you're watching a fight and you're like, man, I really like these strikers. Like, you do a little extra research, man. Like, you kind of dive into the weeds, maybe just a little bit more, because it's something that really gets you going. You're like, man, this guy's style, the striking and the X's and O's here. I think that's how Trevor Whitman saw this fight. It's like, Ilia Topuria's got this nasty boxing. I can't wait to put together a plan for us to go out there and try to solve this riddle that nobody has figured out. This was a beautiful performance by Justin Gaethje. And listen, the shots that he was taking in round 2, a lot of guys fold from that. So what I saw from Gaethje, the dude was just not losing on this night, and he was clearly the better man. So I want to make it very clear, Justin Gaethje put on a spectacular performance. But let's talk about what went wrong for Ilia and why there's going to be, obviously, he's a massive superstar, but the eyeballs are going to be on Ilia, and we're going to learn a lot about him. Because everything is great when you're winning, but what happens when you lose? Now you're saying, well, Jake, who the hell is this on the screen, right? Now, if you're a football fan, you know who these guys are. Up at the top left, we got Dan Campbell, the head coach of the Detroit Lions. And then down at the bottom left, we got Ben Johnson, who is the Chicago Bears head coach. It was the offensive coordinator in Detroit, coaching alongside Dan Campbell. But why I have these guys up here is because, in a sense, yeah, it's different, but it reminds me of Ilia Topuria. These are two coaches that are ultra aggressive. In a way, a lot of fans will criticize and say over-aggressive. These are guys that on 4th and 2 at their own 25-yard line, they'll go for it early in the year. Like, what are you doing? To where if you get it, you look brilliant. But if you don't, you look like an idiot. And Ilia Topuria, he plays a similar, I know it's different, but this is how, I kind of am wrapping this around my brain. Ilia plays the risk it to get the biscuit game. These coaches are willing to go out there with that same philosophy over and over and over again, and they will not change. It's who they are. They want to punch you in the mouth. If they have you on their heels, they come out with ultra confidence in their offense, and they want to come right at you. And in situations where everyone else punts the ball, they're like, nah, man, we're going for it. I'm sending a message. That's what Ilia Topuria has done. Ever since he's been in the UFC, ever since he's kind of been, this well-known famous guy, he's got this high confidence, and he calls his shot, and when everyone's kind of going in this direction, he goes this way, like McGregor did, right? Other guys are like, well, like Gaethje, it's going to be a good fight, anything can happen. Ilia doesn't do that. He's like, I'm going to go in there, I'm going to knock you out in the first round, and that's what's going to happen. And now, granted, he said he was going to knock out Volk, he did it. Said he was going to knock out Max, he did it. Said he was going to knock out Oliveira, he did it. So when all of that is going well, you're going for it on 4th down, everyone's like, man, this guy's a genius. Celebrating before the fight, having your victory celebrations before the fight. But when you go for it on 4th down in a critical moment, when you should have took the field goal, you should have punted the ball, that team goes down and scores, or you turn it over and you give them that chance and they win. Now you look like an idiot. And that's the reality. That's the game that Ilia Topuria was risking to play. It's how I relate it. I hope that this makes sense. This is how I relate it, man. The mentality of Ilia is like, I'm risking it for the biscuit, because when it works out, I look like a genius. I told you I was going to knock him out. If he would have went out there and floored Gaethje in the first or second round, we're going, this guy, he knows something that we don't. He walks around with a permanent smirk. Like Ilia's like, he's got a permanent smirk, right? And it feels like he knows something that we don't sometimes, right? At least up to this point. And if he goes out there and floors Gaethje, we're like, this guy's brilliant. But then when you go out there and you say, I'm going to knock him out in the first round, in the first 2 minutes, and all that kind of stuff, and it doesn't happen, and you're having celebration parties as if you won the fight before the fight, now you tend to look like a fool. That is the nature of the beast. I don't expect Ilia to change very much in that department, because I feel like it's part of his game, man. But the reality is, this is what we saw in the octagon. What went wrong for Ilia against Gaethje? For me, it comes down to a couple different things. Number one, Ilia was unbelievably stationary in this fight. And I know that Ilia, he's got that kind of Canelo-like boxing style, right? A guy that he's taken, a ton of influence from, right? That forward pressure, boxing-based style, the high guard, flat-footed, great, forward pressure, cutting the cage off. Ilia does some of the best job that we see in MMA when it comes to boxing, fundamentals and principles, but putting pressure on guys, forcing you up against the fence to slow you down, which in boxing would be up against the ropes, slowing you down, utilizing defense, countering with big combinations, and being able to put you away. Ilia Topuria was just flat-footed standing in front of Justin Gaethje. He wasn't really heading him off the same way that we see Ilia head off a lot of these other guys. Now, we had to see him find a way to get to Volkanovski, slowing him down with the calf kick, taking away some of the movement to where eventually he was able to take him out with the hands. Kind of the same thing in the Holloway fight, right? Oliveira, it was different because Charles has that forward pressure Muay Thai style to where he just kind of charged into range, which was kind of tailor-made for Ilia. That's why I figured Ilia would knock him out pretty quickly. But Gaethje didn't play that game. He was sticking and moving, playing on the back foot, moving forward, setting the tone early, tagging Ilia. Ilia went right after him with no respect. He literally walked right at Gaethje. There was no head movement. Ilia Topuria, I know you could say, well, yeah, he's kind of flat-footed, but if you watch the Holloway fight, if you watch the Volk fight, you see him kind of loosey-goosey with the arms, right? He's kind of moving around and bobbing, the head's moving, the hand's coming out, trapping, and he's really there's a lot of movement, right? There was none of that in this fight at all. None. And I was saying coming into this fight, one of the things about Ilia is you could tell that he really was filling out as a real 55er, right? Obviously, he's a shorter guy. What is he, 5'7"? So people are like, man, he's short, but he's stout, right? He's got a big, thicker paws type of frame for the lightweight division. He's got a unique build in this weight class, right? And Gaethje, to me, just looked quite a bit bigger. I know, he's a little bit taller, had a little bit of a reach advantage, but Gaethje looked a lot bigger in there to me, right? And Gaethje utilized that, right, by doing a great job of just tagging Ilia with the jab. Ilia was not moving his head whatsoever, and I know that people have said, well, Ilia overswings on shots, loads up. He doesn't always do the best job defensively, right? It's easy to have good defense against Emmett, and, when Emmett's kind of throwing basically just big, meaty hooks, and that's it, right? But the reality is Ilia has shown good defensive fundamentals. It was non-existent in this fight. He didn't move his head at all. There were a few moments where you kind of see him get into the moving and grooving. None, almost at all in this fight. Gaethje started busting him up with the jab right away, disrupting the rhythm, disrupting the forward momentum, and I thought the best touch that Gaethje added to this fight was incorporating some of the wrestling, right? And even if he didn't get the takedowns, right, a lot of it was just causing that car crash as Ilia was moving forward to halt his momentum, to then get into the pocket, let these uppercuts go, let these right hands go. Gaethje was either all the way in or all the way out. It was very rare that he was kind of sitting in that mid-range where Ilia Topuria really thrives. It was just beautiful work by Gaethje, man. But Ilia was unbelievably stationary. He just looked stiff. He looked explosive in rounds 1 and 2, and we saw him, kind of turn it on late, have a few moments here and there. But, man, Gaethje just started to run the numbers up. Gaethje was just kind of walking him into things left and right, and it's well, Ilia is the guy that's normally walking people into things, right? Landed a couple calf kicks early. Gaethje actually throughout his career has done a really good job of checking kicks as well. So it's not like Ilia's calf kick was actually a massive weapon in this fight. And that's been a big weapon for Ilia. Utilizing the calf kick to slow down the opposition, make him more of a sitting duck to where he can trap you along the fence and take you out with the boxing. Gaethje just fought a crisp fight, man. He was very, very, very tactical. And yes, Ilia had a massive round 2 to where he almost was able to get him out of there, which we'll talk about, at the end of the video. But man, the stationariness that we saw from Ilia, if that's a word, the defense was non-existent. He was moving forward, just basically rock 'em, sock 'em was Ilia's approach. And I feel like a lot of that was arrogance, right? And Justin Gaethje called it perfectly. He said, what's going to happen if Ilia comes out here and doesn't knock me out in the first couple of minutes? He doesn't knock me out in the first round. He doesn't knock me out in the second round. And now we're going into rounds 3, 4, and 5, those championship rounds. What is that going to do to Ilia when he kind of put all this pressure on himself of being bold? Right back to this again. Being bold, 4th and 2, calling your shot, risking it for the biscuit. That's what Ilia does. He's like, I'm not just going to go in here and, we'll see what happens. No, I'm going to knock out Gaethje in the first round. And then when it happens, we're like, Ilia's a genius. He knew something we didn't. Look at that, man. And that's what's been happening up until this point. But then when you say those things, you don't get the early KO, and it almost feels like maybe mentally you're banking on that, and it doesn't happen. You're in there with a dog in Gaethje. Things aren't going according to plan. Gaethje can survive. And, dude, I'm telling you right now, like, Gaethje was not losing this fight. The fact that he got cracked with that nasty liver shot and was somehow able to survive is just still mind-boggling to me. Because, dude, Ilia was thudding him with nasty body shots. Right? And then you could say, well, Ilia should have just let him up. And I understand all of that. But the reality is Gaethje's a freaking dog, man. I think anybody else is going away from those shots. And then I feel like that was deflating for Ilia. Hitting a guy with your best shots, you start to fatigue yourself. You kind of, use up a lot of your gas that you have in the tank. And now he keeps moving forward. He's not fading. And Gaethje's one of these guys that's been in these crazy wars with Fiziev, Ferguson, right? Well, beat down to Ferguson. But you know what I mean? In these 25-minute fights where there's back and forths. Gaethje's having to battle adversity. He's getting rocked. He's been in there with the best guys in the world. I mean, Ilia has as well. But Gaethje for a long time now. Ever since he came into the UFC. I mean, I think Gaethje's debut fight was like Michael Johnson. So Gaethje's only been fighting the best of the best. So Ilia Topuria, a guy that to me came in, obviously we know he's confident, but there's that fine line, as he was kind of saying. People could say it's cocky, but I don't give a damn. Like how he said that, right? Little like bobble of the head, right? Bobblehead Topuria. But the reality is I think he came in a little over arrogant in this fight. I feel like he watched that Patty fight, as a lot of us did. And he was like, man, Gaethje leaves so many openings. A lot of the critiques that we have for Gaethje leaves so many openings. And we're all like, well, if that's Ilia, a precise puncher, that's probably going to equal an early KO for Ilia. And Gaethje just had other plans, man. So, but watching the fight back, it was very noticeable to me that, one, Ilia started to slow down and get tired. I feel like a lot of that was Gaethje was fatiguing him, ripping shots to the body. Ilia was hitting him with his best shots. Gaethje wasn't going away. And then also the fact of whenever you put all that pressure on yourself to go out there and get the KO and it doesn't happen and you're getting busted up, you're getting your lips swelled up, your nose busted up, your eyes, around your eyes getting busted up, man, that's going to slow you down and start to take away some of that confidence. But Ilia's a dog, man. Like, people are clowning on him and switching up, which is just crazy work to me. Ilia Topuria, that in that third round when they were like, the doctor was like, no. And then the fight kept going. Ilia wanted to continue. Right? And then obviously I think it was his brother. They ended up stopping it. And I feel like it honestly should have stopped the round before. But it is what it is. I just feel, I just worry, man, whenever you see a fighter take this kind of damage, how do they bounce back? And that's what we're going to find out a lot about Ilia Topuria moving forward. But I saw a guy that looked a little bit slower to me, a little bit stiffer, looked fast early, then started to stiffen up. The gas tank started to fade. Watch the Holloway fight. Watch the Volk fight. Right? Obviously, he moved up to 55. He's added on some size. It's clear. I'm wondering if that is going to have some sort of effect on Ilia moving forward. Because to me, if you watch those fights back, I know when you move up a weight class, right? He fought Oliveira. He had a long time off before this fight, and you've added on that size. I'm wondering if that's something that we're going to see from Ilia moving forward, to where maybe he just doesn't have that same kind of speed and movement that we were seeing at 145 pounds. We see that guys move up and they lose some of that speed. They lose some of that kind of, razzle-dazzle, And the other thing about Ilia in this fight is he was just walking forward, brawling with Gaethje, right? Especially in the first round. In round 2, we started to see him be a little bit more precise, a little bit more tactical, being a little bit more feint heavy, trying to get to those technical boxing combos. But for me, it just really felt like Ilia came into this with very little respect kind of for the game of Gaethje and just expected to kind of bulldoze him over by moving forward. Didn't care if Gaethje was going to land a shot. He had no problem taking one to give one, trusting in his power when we've normally seen, yes, Ilia trusts in his power, but relies on the feints, the hand speed, setting things up, and being able to take out the opposition. Where here, it just felt like he came in with a brawling mentality into this fight, and doing that against Gaethje, obviously a recipe for a disaster. I'm wondering if that is something that we're going to have to take into account moving forward. But the reality is, man, Ilia Topuria in this moment, I thought he was going to win the fight. I watched it back. I remember it live. I remember it, as I was rewatching it, I'm like, man, it felt like Ilia, if he just let him up, he was going to end up getting the TKO in round number 2. But, man, shout out to Justin Gaethje, an absolute savage, man, to get the job done. And how about Gaethje? Undisputed champion. 2-time interim champion, finally undisputed in his upper 30s, getting the job done over a phenom like Ilia, man, is absolutely crazy to me. So shout out to Ilia, mad respect and class for this, and like I said, we're going to learn a lot about Ilia. We already know a lot about the guy, right? He's confident. He's a spectacular fighter, greatest 3-fight win streak of all time. Volk, Holloway, Oliveira. How does he bounce back? What's his confidence going to look like? Is he still going to be out there celebrating before the fight? And again, if you're out late celebrating and then you got to fight the next day, it almost feels like he kind of was so confident that he was going to go in there and just steamroll Gaethje. And then when it didn't happen, that is definitely something that is going to kind of, just break you down as the fight goes. And Gaethje just chipped away at him and had a beautiful game plan, man. A beautiful game plan. It was kind of surgical in the way that Gaethje was able to operate in there and just stayed away from the power of Ilia, not circling into the right hand, sticking and moving, fighting a very smart game. And we've seen Gaethje kind of get away from his game plans early in fights, over swinging, and then he comes back to the stool, and Trevor Whitman's like, slow down, Justin Gaethje, slow down. He's like pointing at him, and then Gaethje comes out and fights technical, and it's like, there he is. But my big thing was coming into this fight, if Gaethje has that moment, it's going to be too late because he's probably going to get knocked out. But if he can survive the storm, get back to the stool, have Trevor calming down, but Gaethje didn't even need that in this fight. He was calm and composed the entire time, even when he was getting cracked in round 2, which is just veteran experience and the will of Gaethje. He was the better man and was not going to lose on the night. But it's going to be very interesting to see how Ilia bounces back. And I feel like he's going to take quite a bit of time away, and it kind of stinks because there's been some inactivity. Right, obviously he had some personal things going on, first round KO of Oliveira, and now all this time away, and now you take a beat down like this. Like, how in the world does Gaethje eat those shots from Ilia where it's like no damage? And look at Ilia, look like he got put through a wood chipper. Like, Gaethje is the best of all time at creating damage. Controlled chaos, causing car crashes. Man, this fight was absolutely, watching it back, it was a great fight. It was crazy. Obviously, Gaethje was winning it, but man, it was an action-packed fight. Both dudes were dogs. Gaethje breaking him down, Ilia stopping on the stool. It's going to be interesting to see how he bounces back. Is he still going to be calling his shots? Is he still going to be that super confident guy? Or are we going to see a little bit of a more gun-shy Ilia Topuria moving forward? I would like to hear what you guys think about it down in the comments.